Assalamu alaikum. Hi everyone. Welcome for another training session. But before we proceed, let me just repeat my sentence, which I always say. Your employees are your biggest asset in your company, anywhere you are operating in the world. So on the other side, we always say customers are, the king, and customers are always right, and customers are our salary payers. But remember, your biggest customer, our biggest customers are our employees actually. So if we don't consider them the biggest or the best asset, and we don't appreciate them and we don't respect them, surely we're going to lose them within maybe a few weeks or maybe within a few years. And um, losing some best employees is a greater loss in the business world. That is why today's training is very much important, which is all about relevant to employees relations, how we're gonna manage our relations with our employees, and what is the value of motivation, and if employees are complaining like grievances, how we're gonna deal them, and most importantly, what would be our discipline, the rules and regulations for our employees, and we as uh, a top leader, how we are leading by example in front of them as a role model. So there could be a trickle down effect positively as per our expectations or as per our business plans or as per our CSR program like corporate social responsibility. So let's move on with our slide. The most important area to be highlighted here, discipline and the grievances are each one side of the same complaints coins. So either you have discipline or grievances, or each one side of the same complaints coin. So more discipline system we're gonna implement, the more grievances sometimes we get. Like in any company or even in any country, even in any home, I would say, even in your home, if there is not a better system, of course things would be harder to manage. But more strict system if you're going to have with some discipline disciplinary rules and regulations, of course more complaints or grievances you need to deal with. That is why they are the same complaints coins. So but remember, discipline is a management's complaint against an employee. Okay, discipline is a management's complaints against an employee. So if employees have complaints against management, so of course, the management also have a right to see some complaints against employees, and the discipline is one of the major issue what the top leadership always believe in. That is why the grievances and employees complaint against management. So it's a two-way, like, if you get employees complaints, so you also have certain complaints. So vice versa, how are you going to tackle them? That is more important to plan in, and you have to be a better positive leader within your company to tackle this two-way process more effective. And why disciplining employees? Why it is important? Because employees experience conflict at work and sometimes they break the rules, and then they are the human. So of course, the human beings have tendency sometimes to be fed up to follow the rules, but still rules are important. Otherwise there would be a lot of problems. Like that is why it is mentioned. And mostly the hiring managers, they started not hiring the fully skilled person. They started hiring a person with good attitude, because what they believe is skills are teachable. We can teach skills to the concerned employees and make them more productive or more beneficial for the business, for our company. But if the attitude problem is there, of course, it would be harder to bear with that. Let me give you an example. In one of the company, even one of the general manager, he was having tendency to come late every day. And the board members, they started thinking what should be the solution, and they gave certain warnings to that general manager, because he was the front leader. he was the top leader and, leading from front, and the trickle down effect was really negative, because if he's coming late in the office, what would be the impact in the minds of others? So that is why the board members, after putting all efforts, they realized that they immediately need to terminate the general manager and hiring the new GM with better attitude, actually, because that GM was more arrogant, and he believed that the business can never be run, and without him, actually, that was the misconception, or I would say kind of overconfidence. But anyhow, the board members clearly took this initiative, and very strong, unwanted decision, I would say, even. But that was later on very much beneficial to create a better discipline throughout the organization. So because the employees got a clear message, if they will not follow the punctuality rules, or they'll be not on time on their job, of course, they can also face the same consequences. Then, we truly need to understand it becomes your job to minimize the conflict and get things going back on track. There must be some disciplinary policies and actions. And they can play a prime role in prohibiting unwanted employee behaviors. And these are some of the typical reasons for disciplining employees, because there should be there is always a reason, to implementing any sort of rules within a business. So these are some of the rules why, or the reasons why we need this disciplinary procedures or kind of policies to be implemented. And there are some issues related to conduct, first of all, like tardiness, absenteeism, insubordination, negligence, fighting, stealing, falsification of documents, abusiveness, harassment, and use of obscene language, and even possession of a controlled substance, reporting to work under the influence of alcohol or other controlled drugs, so substance use, and even infractions of published work rules, for example, dress code, safety procedures, and so on. And there are certain issues related to performance as well, like maybe low productivity and few others even, especially not following some of the safety rules and regulations, or having some, a special expectation from the customer side, and related to your job or related to your departments, of course. These are the plenty of reasons to implement disciplinary policy and all. But what this policy is all about, make sure it is well communicated with all the employees, and also providing periodically a copy, posting it or including it in an employee handbook. That is why the HR department or the legal department of the company, they must establish a employee handbook and circulate, and whenever they employees joining, actually, so at that stage, at that moment, they can issue this handbook and take signature of that employee. So immediately he will start realizing that this book is very much important. Otherwise, there would be some disciplinary actions if he'll be violating some rules, actually, rules or regulations of the company. Now, employees should be required to sign an acknowledgement. That's pretty important. You must have to keep an evidence. There shouldn't be any excuses. And remember, excuses surely don't get results. They don't produce results. So make sure you have acknowledgement from each employee. Then the policy also should be covered in new employee orientation. Like you must have an induction program or a kind of employees orientation program. And whoever is coming or joining your company as a new employee, make sure you gave him safety induction, you gave him, the induction relevant to company rules and regulations, and anything else you want to share with him to make him better productive employee, and creating a better foundation to lead this relationship by producing mutually beneficial results even. Now, this employee discipline, the policy, the purpose, the scope, the procedure must be well clear. So no harm to prepare a detailed procedure, a kind of policy, and clearly you need to mention what is the purpose of this employee discipline policy, and in order to provide a safe and positive workplace, first of all, for the employees, and they are truly expected to comply with all the standards and the code of conduct or the performance indicators, whatever agreed with them actually while the company hired them. And right person for the right job, of course, still is a huge challenge. When standards are not met, progressive discipline will be used as a way of encouraging an employee to meet the standards. So what is the purpose? The policy purpose is quite clear, to make sure, to deal with problems related to poor performance or inappropriate conduct. So it is to be administered equitably and consistently, and make sure, there is a strong emphasis on correcting the problem rather than only punishing the employee. So there shouldn't be only punishing system, might be you can encourage your employee by rewarding system, or having some one-to-one meetings to convince them, because sometimes I believe if an employee is not listening you, or they're not following your rules and regulations, might be you are lacking convincing power as a leader, or might be you couldn't get time to have a one-to-one meeting with these kind of negative minds, which required your motivation or kind of guidance to retain them back within your company rather than just terminating. Because termination, to be very honest, is should be your last option. But before that, even after termination, still you must accept that you still have some leadership failure within your personality as well. So that is why it is more important our HR department should play a very positive role to make sure the retention of employees, and no employee will stay until you give them a career development planning, or how you're going to make sure, after 1 year, where they can see themselves if they are the best employee, and what position you're going to offer, what the promotions you will offer them, how if they're going to achieve KPIs, have you agreed with them, what kind of increments or certain facilities they're going to get. And of course, the scope must also be clear for this disciplinary policy, like all non-supervisory staff. So procedural steps you can mention also. Corrective discipline, there is a clear purpose of the discipline is to assist employees in changing their unwanted behavior, kind of like absenteeism, poor performance, or inappropriate behavior. In one of the company, I noted a lot of chain smokers were there. And me and the company managing director, we sat together and we just start discussing, how we can change this smoking behavior, even though it's a smoking habit, but still a mindset was created, and the nicotine was the biggest reason because the mind was addicted. And we started channelizing some steps, how we can reduce this smoking, and we started one-to-one meetings, and we convince almost all the chain smokers, and we're gonna tell them, okay, you are smoking suppose 10 cigarettes, so can you reduce one, then another one. So same way we also giving them some alternative to be allowed, especially during the break times and all. So make sure the employees should have adequate information about their current performance versus the desired performance, and this will also decrease your legal risk as well. Yes, disciplinary system. There are many systems available for disciplinary employees. One system called progressive discipline is very popular. It requires the employer to progress through each step before proceeding to the next. Now, types of disciplinary actions can be verbal, like counseling, as I told you earlier. Written warning, even though, especially in Middle East mentality, might be it will create some frustration or kind of maybe the arrogance if you are giving some warning, but as per your company procedure, of course, you are bound to issue if the person is not following, especially after verbal consolation, because he still didn't agree that he'll be following all the rules and regulations. So you are bound to give some written warnings, like written warning number 1, 2, and then, you can have a final meeting again. You try your level best. Otherwise, the termination is the only option. Now, after written warning, suspension or termination. Now, suspension is like before final termination is a good way to make him realize, like if you suspend him for 1 week or 2 weeks, and then he's gonna stay at home and start thinking and realizing what went wrong and how he can change his behavior. And if after 1 or 2 weeks still he couldn't realize, then termination definitely he deserves. Now, types of disciplinary actions, verbal counseling, this is generally the first step. However, for a serious problem, skip this step. Verbal warning should always be done privately. Verbal counseling sessions should be documented by a formal memo or informal note in the employee's personal file. So, right here, keep the objective evidence of your each activity. So later on, you can prove why you took this unwanted decision. Now, what other actions are there? Number second is all about written warning. That means you should include at a minimum the following elements: the date of the warning, the employee's name, the name of the supervisor, okay, and also the description of the misconduct or inadequate performance, and the date of the misconduct or poor performance, a signature line for the supervisor, a signature line for the employee indicating he is receiving only, a signature line for the witness, even an action plan to fix the behavior in a given time frame. So it's all about clarity, the clarity for both sides. Like if you imagine, if you just simply terminate one guy and no warning letters, no verbal counseling, you don't have any objective evidence. Even employee says, I'm unaware why you took this decision, and he went to court, and of course the goodwill of your business would be on stake. Even you are right at your your actions are exactly as per your positive company tracks, but still no record was there. So the employee have a right to go to the court, and then now you are unable to prove, and your goodwill could be at stake. So the suspension may be ranged from 1 day to 2 weeks or more, depending upon the circumstances, and is almost unpaid. Next step may be suspension of increasing length or directly go to the termination. Whatever it is, should be stated in the suspension letter. So evidence is important. Make sure you keep that evidence. Now, the types of disciplinary actions, termination. Before termination, the personnel file and all relevant documents must be reviewed to ensure that the termination is appropriate and defensible in a subsequent lawsuit. Now, some behavior warrants automatic dismissal, like violent behavior or threats of violence, drugs and alcohol, use on duty, carrying a weapon on company property, theft, destruction of the company property, insubordination, and abandonment of the job. And to be very honest, you as a top leader, make sure you are neutral, positive, and you don't have any personal grudges. To be very honest, in one of the company, I faced some personal grudges with the general manager of that company, unfortunately. And even though he knows I'm a good performer, I'm managing as a QHSE manager, all sort of customer audits and compliance issues, managing different kind of customer complaints, and having plenty of third-party audits to be managed with good rating and all. But still, because of this personal grudges, things went in a very terrible direction. So later on, we both parties decided not to continue actually this journey. And then, no doubt, everybody have certain plans. So, sometimes you say, I'm born as a businessman, so I have some passion about business leadership. So that's why immediately I started my business. Even that business was already there, and just God, Allah gave me a reason to start immediately and be open to the market. So now, Alhamdulillah, things are quite on a positive track. And luckily been working in different, like more than 12 countries, and have done certain projects with better results. And even I'm sure you'll be getting more and more knowledge from my side wherever I've been working. And I'm very optimistic that you guys will get a lot of benefit from these videos. So make sure, some behavior warrants automatic dismissal, like violent behavior is not acceptable. Types of violence. Violence again is not acceptable. Drug and alcohol use on duty and carrying a weapon. No. Company property, theft, destruction of company property, incubation, amendment of job, terrorism, or some others you can add, as per you. Now, types of disciplinary actions, other forms of discipline may be demotion, transfer, and reduced raises and bonuses. Many employees can be satisfactorily managed by economic concerns such as bonuses and raises. Now, some of the discipline you required in terms of, in context of the union, if a union represent your employees, like in Saudi Arabia, the union is not allowed, but in other part of the world, there must be a union leader and, kind of a, the committee representing all the employees. If a union represent your employees, your disciplinary system most likely governed by your collective bargaining agreement like CBA. All of your managers and supervisors are well trained on how to follow the disciplinary procedure in the CBA. The CBA will most likely have progressive discipline steps and provide that the employee can grieve any disciplinary action, dispute that are not resolved through the grievance process and end up in the hands of an arbitrator. Now, let me give you another practical example. In one of the company, I signed a contract to develop their IMS, like integrated management system, and also incorporate SA8000, we call it social accountability standard, and some of the brand COC standards, So along with 9001 quality management system, 14001 environmental management system, as well as 18,001 at that time, but now we have 45,001, which is occupational safety management system. So, and some of the legal standards and product relevant standards need to be incorporated along with CSR requirements like corporate social responsibility by complying SA8000 requirements. So, it was a very, I would say, important project. So, but the problem what we face as a management consultant, the managing director was giving and shouting and was very harsh every day. Some new rules, some new regulations every day. I mean, oh, I'll punish you if you will not do this. This is every day he was just shouting and giving plenty of new rules. Then we sat with him and we told him, look, you think by yourself, give us all the rules you want to implement. Then compatibly, we will see either all your rules are legally we can comply, or we just need to compromise and you need to change your behavior actually. So you truly need to understand the legal boundaries while you are implementing or pushing hard to implement any sort of your rules and regulations. Even though you want people to be more responsible, you want them to be more productive, but your harsh or your kind of very strict behavior, of course, will go into the illegal pattern or circles. And on the other side, you have union inside. So union leaders, they will definitely take it to the court. And, I noted a lot of complaints for this general manager, or I would say the managing director of that company. And always he was going to the court and, facing all this. But later on, while developing the system, we had a clear meeting with him, and then he called all the managers and supervisor, and we agreed. And he mentioned, okay, today to onward, whatever our management consultant will be saying, we'll be following, because as a management consultant, we are bound to work within the legal boundaries, within the customer requirements, as well as by following the global standards. So we can't talk beyond anything beyond the local or the legal or regulatory or some kind of global standards even. So that is why you truly have to be careful, especially when you have CBA procedure implemented within your company. No, disputes are not resolved through the grievances process and up in the hands of the arbitrator. That's you truly have to remember. Now, factors of consider. What are the factors to be considered? Mitigating factors like long service with the company, history of satisfactory appraisals, prior commendations or awards. Aggravating factors, a short length of service, history of unsatisfactory performance, and prior instances of performance conduct attendance problems. Once you have made the choice, stick with it and remember to document all of your stuff. So if you don't document, it's hard to remember, and definitely you can't win the case anywhere within the company, even in front of the court. No, employee grievances. Yes, employee grievances are a method for employee to use to resolve conflicts when they feel they have been treated unfairly by the management. Let me give you one more example. In one of the company I was working, the general manager, he was very much, I would say, sensitive actually. He was oversensitive. Even I noted, as a subordinate, he always tried to stop us to meet even to the credit officers, or I would say the bankers coming for marketing, or some of the other gentlemen coming to visit us. So he always tried to stop us, not to, I don't know what was the insensitivity, but what I noted, he just want his face to be available everywhere. And that was his terrible professional face, So that's why I told you, as a general manager or as a manager, you have to be neutral, positive, and no personal grudges, and be honest, and make sure your heart, soul, and mind working together on a positive ground. Yes, there could be some typical reasons for employee grievances, which always you as a HR professional or as a legal department you'll be facing, in like disagreement over wages, inequitable work schedules, or disagreement over hours of work, unfair conditions of employment, discrimination against the worker, harassment of a worker, inconsistent performance standards, and appropriate use of disciplinary process. Now, this discrimination, even recently, I hope we all know, and you all would have noticed that even in USA, they call like as a superpower, but they were having some racism and kind of discrimination. And, the goodwill of that country was truly in a terrible phase. And until now, the blacks and whites are still feeling uncomfortable with each other. Even though Mr. Joe Biden, the current president of USA, I noted very positive leadership, and he's trying his level best to motivate all Americans that we, the Americans, are one nation with one goal, and no discrimination, no racism, no even gender discrimination, I would say. So he's trying, as a good leader, as a positive leader, he's trying. He's not like differentiating, or he's like Trump supporter, or he's not my supporter, or he's black, or he's white. No. He's trying to remove this discriminatory practices, from USA, and that's a good sign. And this is how you rebuild your image and make sure things are on the positive side. So same way within your company, you truly have to ensure, there isn't any discrimination against a worker. And harassment, is a very typical topic, especially for the females or the women. So we have to be careful. Even for the male, I would say, some managers and supervisors, they're very much harsh, they're rude even. And as a human nature, everybody wants to be appreciated and respected. But unfortunately, we start thinking we are the managers, and all other our workers, they are just like slaves. And that is the terrible mindset we have within our companies. Yes, there are always some challenges and violations from the employee side as well. But since still as a positive leader, we have to play a strong role to minimize or to tackle more effectively the employee grievances. Now, what typical procedure must be there? Make sure you discuss problem with manager. Discuss problem with manager superior, and the superior may refer problem to the grievance committee or CEO. Union employee grievances are handled differently. Union grievances are often resolved through arbitration, like hearing before someone empowered to resolve the dispute. Mediation means negotiation. Negotiation, between two parties using a neutral intermediary to assist in the setting a dispute. Now, what we have to do is make sure you have grievance identification techniques like observations, you have grip boxes, you have exit interview, you have open door policy. Now, what is observation? What is grip boxes and open door policy or exit interview? We are going to discuss one by one. Observation means the knowledge of human behavior is the requisite quality of a good manager. From the change behavior of any employee, he should sum up the causes of grievances without its knowledge to the employee. Grip boxes, the suggestions boxes for instance are placed and easily accessible spots to most employees in the organization. The employees can file anonymous complaints and about their dissatisfaction in these boxes. There must be some open door policy, like most of the organizations still don't practice this, but open door policy demands that the employees, even at the lowest rank, should have easy access to the CEO to get his grievances readdressed. But of course, it's not easy, like CEO always use the shoulder of HR manager. And HR managers, they love to feel the taste of this authority, like the CEO is quite busy, so we are the CEO now. No, you are not the CEO. You are the service department. Like if you are a HR department, you are a service department. So make sure you are providing better service to the employees and even to your CEO. Now, exit interviews, these interviews are conducted to know the reason for leaving the job. Properly conducted exit interviews can provide significant information about the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and can pave way for further improvement. So, exit interview is truly critical, and the good organization, they truly value, the feedback they got from the terminated employee or the resigned employee, or but this exit interview must happen not through the CEO, at least through the HR manager or the HR staff, and there must be again documented phase up which you need to follow. What would be the benefits like? Because it will enable the management to know the pulse of the employees, provide a channel to aggrieved to express their grievances, and provide clues about the behavior and attitude of the managers and supervisors towards their subordinates. And it's also give an assurance to the employees about the existence of a mechanism for the prompt redressal of their grievance, keep up the morale of the employees. Okay, guys, thank you very much. And please don't forget to, it's a humble request, please refer our channel to your family, to your friend pool, and to your colleagues, and let them enjoy this daily learning club. And they can subscribe our channel, Trainings On. We truly appreciate the subscribers who already subscribe our channel, and because of your motivation, we are coming daily, and we're trying to create a daily learning club for all of you. And I'm not a trainer here, I'm just a facilitator, and we can learn from each other. If you have any feedback or kind of comments or any questions, you can just give to, like, social media. Like, I'll upload this video to different social media channels, especially to our YouTube channel. Otherwise, you can WhatsApp me like 0096659890343. My name is Ishtiaq Rana. I'm always there to support, inshallah. And you don't need to pay a lot of money for all these courses. Just improve your knowledge and make sure you practically implement and follow all these things. That's your job. And I wish a very good success for wherever you're working in the world. And always remember me. Thank you very much. So nice.